So today, this morning, as promised, I called one of my friends, Mr. Bill Mitchell. Bill and I have known each other for I would say over 21 years in the business, coming out of Atlanta, leader of a great organization. And I tell you, Bill and I had an opportunity. Bill's been on the board, on the President's Council and the Chairman's Council. And this is a guy right here, you guys, he's constantly bringing up new ideas to innovate with WFG. He's always given the president of the company great ideas on how do we make this opportunity better. One of the things that I love about Bill, right? Last week, most of you know we've been going through this training. We've been going through this training on how to get our field force more effective as far as closing and helping people get more results. And as I was going through the course, and I was looking at everyone that was actually attending the course, and one of the faces I saw there, I saw Bill. I said, man, isn't this awesome to be in this business for 22 years and still want to reinvent yourself, still want to get better so you can provide more value to your team. So one of the things that Bill has always been great at, you know, a lot of us, we see the WFG compensation system, but we don't really understand the WFG compensation system. The WFG compensation system is awesome. We were on a president's call, and someone was making a comment about other comps, and then Bill goes, I created a software, and he's talking to the top guys in WFG. He says, I created a software. Majority of our guys don't understand our comp, and they don't understand how powerful our comp is. He said, I would put our comp against any company out there, which is incredible. So I wanted to bring him up to train with us. Bill, I just want to tell you, you and Peggy, we appreciate you so much. We've had so many great times all around the world and all the different trips. And not only is he a great husband, but he's also an awesome leader, unselfish leader, always providing for his team and the overall company. So Bill, if you're on, we want to spotlight Bill. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Hey, no problem. Well, hey, good morning, everybody. You guys started bright and early. Dan, looks like you got quite a crew on here. That's awesome. And I'll echo what Dan said about me. I'll echo that about Dan. In fact, I'll just tell you, I mean, it's not anything private, but I was, we were looking at doing some additional things and, you know, recently, and I actually sent an email in, Dan, regarding you, you know, by the way, for this main reason, you know, I've never, you know, you and I hadn't really talked a whole lot over the past, you know, previous years. We've seen each other at meetings and we've done different things, but it wasn't up until, I don't know, what, a year ago, we had some conversations and I got a chance to, I mean, I've heard you in meetings and stuff, but the advice you give and the all company view you take, I just think it's just so important, because in our business, when you produce leaders bulletins, and it becomes, not on purpose, but inadvertently, it becomes about you on a leaders bulletin, and you're trying to compete, that tendency tends to expand on your whole view. And we can't have leaders like myself and Dan or other leaders having it be about us. I look at, and Dan, I know you do this because I know the people you've done it with out there, you look at everybody as on your team. You'll help anybody on the team. And when you get a bunch of leaders doing that, that's one of the greatest things about our firm, is we have people like that. Not everybody's like that. But Dan, you know, Dan, you certainly are one of them. So I appreciate that. And it also points out that we've got so many good people in our company. It's crazy, isn't it? It's just crazy. One last thing about that training. I am a fanatic, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit on here. I'm a fanatic about improving skills, and you got to take time to sharpen your axe, and you have to, sometimes you got to forget what you know a little bit and roll up your sleeves and be willing to lay it on there and learn. And So this Barry Ryan training, if you're an SMD and you get a chance where you sign up for that, do not miss that. If you're not an SMD, you can't be on it yet until your SMD goes through it. But you want to make sure you sign up for that. It's some of the best training I've ever been in, and I'm a training junkie on things. I love training. So it was really good. But the other thing that actually shocked me, and again, it's because you live in your own bubble, and I live in a bubble, and I like my bubble. Believe me, I love my bubble I live in. Is the thing that shocked me was how the quality of the people our company has, Dan, is just off the charts. I mean, it is. I was telling Peggy, I'm like, I just never really thought about how good everybody is and, accomplished. It's that's why we're going to have a great future. And this is why, and that totally relates to what I'm going to discuss today. All right. And why we win. So if I could, Dan, I'm going to get right into it. Does that sound all right? As I took 5 minutes to get right into it. So let me get the screen sharing going here. So I can share my screen. Here we go. Nice. And let's just put this up. All right. Can everybody see that? So I got a question for you. Does everybody know what that number represents? I might call on people once in a while on here, Dan, if that's all right. That represents the amount of compensation we paid out last year. $964 million. And of course, when I see a number like that, the first thing I think is man, that's some number. Second thing I think of, Dan, is should that have been $1.5 billion? Yeah, is as good as it was. If our administrative services, and I'm under no mistake, we have some flaws on administrative services, what we're doing here, but it's still the best around. And if we get that even more smooth, I think that number is going to skyrocket. But that's $2.63 million paid out every day. That is an astonishing number. And know what it represents? It does not represent us. It does not. Let me tell you what it doesn't represent. And I use this as part of my, like, for instance, and just to give you a little more background, I spent a fair amount of my time recruiting people from other companies. And as Dan mentioned, I will match our comp plan, our compensation plan up against anybody in the industry. It is 25 years in the making. It's the best comp plan in the industry when you understand how to use it. And we also have the best ownership plan in the industry. And I remember some guy asked me when I told him that he was an industry vet, and he goes, well, how can you say that? I said, because I helped write it. That's why. Me and about 15 other people helped write it and tried to think of everything. So we have the best ownership plan and we have the best comp plan in the industry. And yes, we could probably use a little tweaking here and there, but the challenges we have as a company, aspirin solves. The challenges most companies have, there's no amount of aspirin that'll solve those challenges because they are systemic to their system. Why haven't other companies been able to do this? Why haven't other companies been able to even come within 10% of this number? Is that a fair question? Let me give you a few answers. First off, everybody else out there is selling and chasing compensation and product. They're chasing comp and they're chasing product. Come with me because I have this high contract. Come with me because I have this cool product. They are not mission driven. And that's before I get to the fact, and I hope you guys are going to take a lot of notes here. That's before I get to the fact they're not systems driven either. They're sales driven, but they're not systems driven. They're not building people. So I'm going to ask you a basic question here on why do you think people come on board with us and join us? What's the most effective thing we do when somebody comes on board and joins us? Do they join us because of the compensation? When I say comp, that means compensation. They join us because of the compensation. Do they join us because we've got a cool product? They join us because they can go out and make $1 zillion. That might attract them. Making money, right? I want to make money too. But the real reason people end up getting involved with us on a deeper level is because one is they have an underlying current that they want to change something in their lives, right? Am I right about that? They have an underlying current, they want to change something. Whether it's making more money, whether they're not happy with their job, whether they don't have any prospects on something here, whatever it is, they have that underlying current. But the real reason people come on board with us is they want to make a difference in other people's lives. That connects with people very deep. They want to make a difference, right? That's one. And it could be two, but it's one of the two. And they want to be part of something special. People want to be part of something special. I didn't come here because I wanted to be involved in some sales machine. Or I'll never forget early on in the 90s, I got a call from a guy and said, "Hey, we've got leads." I'm like, I don't need any leads. I got all the leads I need here. I'm doing what's right for people. I'm highly referable. People want what I have. I don't need any leads. By the way, leads are the worst way to build a business, by the way. If I have time, I'll touch on to that. So when you understand the real reason why people come here, and that's the reason we're able to do that. Now I'm going to give you an economic reason in a second on why that number keeps growing. It doesn't mean it's going to grow forever. You know how companies grow, plateau a little bit, right? That's what companies do. But that number is absolutely proof positive we have the best system out there. Because if somebody else had a better system, they would come within 10 or 5% of that. They don't. They don't come within smelling distance of that number. Does that make sense? Foster, does that make sense? Dan, does that make sense to you? Okay. So, but how do you translate that? All right. You got to understand what so our compensation is designed to build people. All right. That's what it's designed for. So what's the alternative? Let me ask you this. What's the alternative to our system? So has anybody ever said, how about this? A lot of people are licensed on here. I literally just got a solicitation for 120% contract. Has anybody ever seen that before? Right? They're out there, they're in the insurance industry. Come with me because I got this big contract. All right. Let me ask you this, just overall in business. Does everybody here understand that all businesses run by a few people doing a lot and a whole bunch of people doing a little? You guys aware of that? Does that make sense to you? So, I mean, I came from doing a little bit. I was part-time and spare time. Then I ended up doing a lot. But if you want to do a lot, either you got to learn to do a lot, or you got to get a bunch of people doing a little, and a few of them will do a lot, which makes you do a lot. That's the greatest thing about what we do. I can take an average and ordinary person like me, all right, who never made more than 50 grand a year in our business, and go string a bunch of average and ordinary people together, and now all of a sudden I'm extraordinary. That can happen to you, but it can only happen to you if you have a compensation system like we have, and ready for this, where you don't get flanked. You guys understand that term, flanking? Here's what flanking is. So flanking is where I was with a guy before I came here, that was on 130% contract. You with me? He put me on a 60. I found out that there's another guy that I was doing more than in the business that was on 80. I went back to my agent, my general agent, and said, hey, I'm doing more than that guy. He's on 80. You got me on 60. He goes, okay, I'll give you 85. I'm like, okay. Then I found out he was on 120. I'm like, I want his 120. And somebody said, well, how'd you find out he was on 120? That's what he told me. Well, he lied. He was really on 130. Are you guys with me? Oh, yeah. Crazy. I'm going to give you, when I explain what I'm about to explain, and then I walk you through our comp plan, you see why our plan is so ingenious and why it works for everybody. So here I am. I'm out there just doing personal production. And he goes, look, you've always wanted to, train some people and recruit some people. He goes, how about this? I'll put you on 100 and then you can recruit some sub agents. Right? So he's on 120, really 130. He lied to me. On 120, puts me on 80 or on 100. And then I start recruiting people on 80. Well, how long do you think that lasted? So I went back to him and I said, this isn't working. He goes, tell you what, if you do X amount of business, I'll bonus you. And I said, no. I actually went to him and said, are you ready for this statement? Because you hear this a lot in the industry. Marvin, I've been thinking. What do you think I was thinking? I was thinking, I don't need you anymore. Because I can go out and get that contract on my own. With me? So I'm like, okay. I left. I went and got 120 on my own. And then every single person I had that made any money left me. So I ended up just being a personal producer out there scratching out, looking for deals. And so when I came here was my interview. Now, I used to be an engineer, and I was an okay engineer, but the math I'm about to explain, you don't need a calculator for. So I'm sitting down with the founder of our company, and he goes, hey, Bill, hear me loud and clear on this, you guys, because I think you all want the same thing. Are we all here to sell, or are we here to build a business? We're here to build a business. Am I right? That's what we want to do. We want to build a business. Building a business involves building people and building clients. All right. Now, our selling is different than the traditional industry because we're not out there hawking insurance, running leads, doing all that stupid stuff that causes the industry to fail. All right. Which is why they have so many issues out there. We're educating clients. We're running people through, we use a process called the 7 money milestones, and you guys probably do something similar. So we're educating people, moving them to action and building people. And then we're teaching people how to actually build a business. All right. So here was the conversation I had. He goes, okay, you're on 120% contract. He goes, this is the founder of the company. He goes, do you want to be in your 50s? I'm 31 or 32 at the time. He goes, do you want to be in your 50s where you have to go out and make a sale? And I said, I'm good with that. He literally said, you didn't hear me. I'm like, all right. This is like the first time I'm meeting the guy. And he goes, well, you have to go out and make a sale. And I said, well, I don't have to go out and make a sale. He goes, what's your plan out of that? And I had a brilliant answer. You ready? I said, I'll save some money. He goes, how's that working out for you? Of course, it wasn't. I'm like, all right. He goes, and what are you doing for prospecting? I said, I'm running some leads and getting some referrals. He goes, leads? He goes, how's that working out? And I said, you got to call on them. It's kind of a grind. He goes, how would you like to never have to run leads again? And I said, yeah, I would like not to have to pay for those or run leads again. He goes, all right. And literally, he goes, this is what you got to do. He goes, there's only 2 ways off that gerbil wheel. You know what a gerbil wheel is, right? Gerbil hops on a wheel, acts like they're going somewhere, but they're really going nowhere, right? Gerbil. And he goes, you have to get in the assets under management business, money under management business, which at that time, and here too, is cash values, right? And now we've got other areas for that. And you have to get in management. I'm like, sounds good to me. So of course I came from the industry. So guess what I asked him? I go, so what contract am I going to be on? He goes, at the time it was 60. He goes, 60? I'm like, I'm on 120. I said, Hubert, that doesn't look like a pay raise to me. He goes, well, that's not the whole story. He goes, first off, you're not a very good personal producer anyway. You probably already know that. He goes, I go, how much? He goes, how much can you actually personally produce? What was your best year? And I don't remember the figure. He goes, it doesn't matter what contract you're on, you're still going to be broke. I'm like, all right, he's right. It wasn't going to get me anywhere. So anyway, he goes, you're on 120. I said, well, I'm going to be on 60. He goes, yeah, it's a 60% difference. And I said, plus I can get a bonus at 120. He goes, we got that here too, but just go base contracts. He goes, okay, if you go on 60, how many people do you have to recruit in order to get back to 120? And at that time, it was only a 10%, the override was 10%. And I'm going to outline this for you in a second. The override's 10%. I said 6. He goes, that's right. Every person that you bring on direct to you is worth 10%. So in my mind, I had to do 6. Now I'm back to 120. You guys with me on this? So I'm on 60. Every person I recruit is worth 10%. So 6 times 10 is 60. Now I'm back to my 120. He goes, well, which contract are you going to be more secure on? Which is going to provide more stability? Well, I said, the one where I have this. Well, in my mind, I said, well, I'm not going to find 6 people as good as me. I'm going to need 12. That's fine. Well, I went out and found 100. But I made that calculation for that. And so here's what I saw. You ready? What was my problem with the industry? My problem with the industry was I couldn't give my contract away. So every person I had, all right, this is the psychology of compensation. Every person that I would hire and train would end up leaving me if they were any good, because they wanted my contract. They wanted my contract, and that was out there. How do I solve that issue? Well, the way you solve the issue is you take a little less personally. Now everybody can get that contract and they stay with you. Now hear me on this. That's the sole reason we've grown. We have, and I'm going to give you more specific in a second, we've got great leadership. We have great products. We got great backing. There's a bunch of companies that have stuff like that. We have wide product diversity, but we grow because the fact that Dan and I can be on the same contract level, and he doesn't feel like he's working for me, or I don't feel like I'm working for him. Whereas, so now I'm on an unlimited contract. And when I outline, I'm going to show you the calculator in a second. I'm on an unlimited contract. There's no telling how much contract I've got. Whereas before I was limited to 120 or 130 or whatever they want to call it. Doesn't matter. Because anybody that's any good is not going to work for me. Does that make sense? So let me switch gears to one more thing here. So do you understand that, I got it in here, that we're identical to the real estate business? Do you guys get that? So what's the problem with the real estate business? That's the real estate business, isn't it? So I'm going to use a hang on one second here. So I'm going to, there's no names, but you guys see that's the real estate business, right? People are part-time, full-time, spare time. An agent goes out and sells real estate, reports to a broker. If this was the insurance business, what would it be called? This would be a general agency, a GA. So I had this contract here at 120, and I put my agents on something less. Now, if an agent is any good, so if you, let me ask you this, if you were going to go answer this question for yourselves, if you were going to go into real estate, what position would you rather have? Well, to somebody who's inexperienced, they'll say an agent. No, you want the broker. You know why? Because the broker is also an agent. So if you're going to go into real estate, you want to be the broker. If you're going to go in the insurance industry and you want to go out and sell insurance and peddle insurance and do that, you want to be the general agent because the general agent's also an agent. Make sense? So that's the structure. Now, I always explain we're almost identical to the real estate business with one difference. Now I'm going to skip down to this. The difference comes in is what happens when somebody else wants to be that you hired and trained, when somebody else wants to be the general agent, somebody else wants to be the broker, somebody else wants your contract. Does that make sense? And let that sink in for a second. So here you are, you're out there building your business. You find somebody like me. How long is somebody like me going to stay with you? If you're going to get an override at my expense, how long am I going to stay with you? As soon as I figure a way out, I'm not going to stay that long. As soon as I figure out that I can do what you do, I don't need you anymore, I'm going to go on and I'm going to go get the big contract. I'm going to go be the GA. I'm going to go be the broker. How big can a company be if we solve that issue? Pretty big, right? This is where the industry, all these other compensation systems out there, they don't solve this issue. Let me ask you one more question. Do you want to be in personal production the rest of your life? Same question I was asked to me when I was 31 or 32. I'm 59 now. Do you want to have to be in 5 or 10 years? Do you want to have to, not necessarily you might want to, do you want to have to go out there and personally do something in order to get paid? I would say the answer for most of you is no, you don't want to have to do it. You'll do it in the course of helping build your business, but to have to do it, that's a different thing. Am I right? How do you stop? How do you get out of that? You got to have a system where, let me go down here, where this person here can go become a senior marketing director and an override still gets paid. Does that make sense? So how many companies have that system out there? There's a few that have tried to duplicate it. The challenge is they can't duplicate it too well because they don't make it. Let's put it this way, probably what I do in Ohio, maybe add in Indiana and no, I'll just use maybe add in Indiana and Kentucky. Most of those companies aren't even as big as what I do in Indiana and Kentucky and Ohio, much less the whole US, because they don't have this system. So let me show you this in action. You're going to love this. This is so good. It's insane. So I am going to, and Dan, do you have this calculator? Okay, you guys got this? Let me show you how to use it. So I'm just going to use the Transamerica FFIUL. All right. And is it okay? Should I use 250 a month as an average premium? Is that okay? Company average might be a little bit more. Some markets are higher, some lower. Is 200 or 250 good? Unless I hear, we'll just use 250 then, okay? So here's how this grid works. We pay out 122% into the grid. If you're a senior marketing director, you get 65 of the 122 for basically an 80% contract, right? And what do you think the average number of sales is done by an SMD personally? Can I go one a week? Is that okay? So if we do one a week, the SMD is going to make, forget the renewals, forget all that stuff. The SMD is going to make $9,500 a month doing one client a week. That's not bad money, is it? So you know what the industry says? The industry says, well, if 80 is good, why don't we just pay somebody 100 or 120? And we'll pay people more on their personal contract. So let's talk about that a second. If you're out there personally producing, how do you increase your income? You either have to do more, right? So you have more activity, or the activity you have to do more. So in other words, instead of 250 a month, you got to get that to rise to 300 or 350 or 400. So let me ask you something. Those of you that are full-time, just in general, are you doing about all you can do now on a personal activity? Would you say you're probably doing what you can? I know there's improvement, but would you say you're doing what you can on personal activity? There's probably some processes you can fix, but I would say for me, I was doing about all I could do personally. So the solution for me wasn't doing more personally. The solution for me was to go out and train. And every person that I trained that did a sale, this is just showing the senior associate level, this is my income. As a senior marketing director, I got $735 if I had a senior associate helping one family a month on what we do. You with me so far? Okay. So if I want to raise, that's one family a month, but what if somebody I trained did 2 families a month? Now I got a $1,500 raise. With me? What if I had 4 of those people? So I had 4 reps that did 2 clients a month, one every other week. Now I know not everybody's doing that, but let's just say you did. All right. That's 8 families help. So that's 4 people helping a client every other week. Or it could be 8 people doing one a month. So our philosophy here is if you want to solve the prospecting challenge and you want to build a business, which you want to do both, you have to learn how to train people and field train people. And I'm going to throw something out here, maybe not the subject of this call. What do you think the first step to field training is? Just ponder that answer for a second. Is the first step to field training teaching somebody how to sell? Or is it teaching them the comp? What do you think the first step to field training is? Well, it's the reason I'm here, is I'm mission driven. The first step to field training is to create crusaders for what you do. Not just somebody who's excited about one product or one thing. It's going in, showing a family how to change their lives financially, whether it's what we do for them on a personal basis or showing them how to build a business. It's that concept of I am mission driven. It's all about the mission. It's not about running a lead. It's not about I get this contract. It's about the mission of what we do for people. And that's what gives people strength to work part-time, because you know what they want to do? They want to help people financially change their lives. Is that true or not true? If I was going to ask you if that's the most exciting thing, yes, we make money, but tell me explaining the rule of 72 or implementing some of the financial products we got, or, I think the biggest crusade of the century right now happens to be the fact that death benefits can do double duty as long-term care benefits. That's crusade driven. Who doesn't know somebody's got issues with that? And by the way, the time to take care of that is not when you need it. It's way ahead of that, right? That's what we do for people. And people can do that part-time, and a rep can go out there. I want to show you something here. If a rep went out, if you had a senior associate go do that and show somebody who had insurance how to get that insurance to do double duty as long-term care benefits, you make, as the senior marketing director, $735 and they make $1,600. So the rep will make $1,600 for doing that. Part-time. There's nothing not to like about that. And probably if you've been around a little while, you probably did the field training for that. And when you make it all about the mission, that's when the referrals come. Make sense? So now you have 8 people doing this. I'm going to throw another concept out to you here. So you want a pay raise? If you want a pay raise on your personal efforts, notice how I phrase that. If you would like a pay raise on your personal efforts, be in the crusade mission-driven business where you're training people in your base shop. That's your pay raise. The solution, which I explain, this is why I get so many industry agents to come over here, is they were taught to believe the solution to a pay raise is more contract here. It's not. If that worked, everybody be making a fortune in doing that. This works. By the way, how do you know this works? How do you know this works? Remember my opening statement? 964 million. What part of that doesn't anybody understand? That represents money saved, us helping people save money, solving problems. It's at least 10 times more than any other firm out there in our space. But let me ask you this. What's the purpose of running a base shop? So what's the purpose of running a base shop? There's not a name on here, but I'm gonna unmute. I'm asking somebody to unmute here. I just said, ask to unmute. What's the purpose of running a base shop? That come through? Guess I'm not working on the interactive part. All right, I'll just answer the question. The purpose of running a base shop is to produce independent people. And where do those people get produced? Where are those people accounted for? Right here. Your independent people are your first generation senior marketing directors and second. Those are your GAs. People come and go in this space. That's not a negative. People being able to start with us part-time, try us, learn how money works, help some people financially, get a basic education on their own. That's unbelievable. And fact of the matter is, at every company at these lower levels, people come and go for whatever reason. I'm not trying to analyze the reason. But the ones that move up through the ranks a little bit and the ones that make it, you want at senior marketing director. This is where the entire industry is broken down. Entire industry is broken down here because there's no capacity. If you take Dan and I, and Dan recruits Bill Mitchell, Dan, I'm going to like Dan. He's going to train me. But guess what? At some point, I'm going to say, Dan, I don't need you anymore. I'm going to leave him and go somewhere else. Here, I do go somewhere else. I become an SMD, and every client in my base shop, every client that I help, Dan makes $440 off of. All right. Now, this is before I get to our system. What if I go out there and do exactly what Dan does, and I go out and I help 12 clients a month in my base? So Dan's doing it in his base. He spun me out, and I'm here at First Generation. I do it in my base. Dan's running his own show. I'm running my own show. But we still pay Dan. In every other company out there, on a diversified basis, not just one product. I'm talking about we do this in multiple products. How many different products do you guys market for people? A bunch, right? Does Transamerica fit everybody? No. Does Nationwide fit everybody? Pac Life, Symetra, Jackson, Athene, Great America. We represent an industry, not a company, one company. We represent an industry. Why do we represent an industry, everybody? Because we want to do right for the client, because we are mission driven. So when I see stuff that comes across my desk, it says, literally, I just got one that says, sell this annuity with us and we'll pay you 0.5% more. What's that got to do with what's right for the client? That's here today and gone tomorrow. So we've created an environment, an ecosystem here where we have all these products, and all you got to worry about is doing what's right for the client. And then you get a person like Dan, or you, forget Dan, you go find a guy like Bill Mitchell, and I grow up in our system and I get spun out here. And now I'm running my own show on a diversified basis, and you make $5,200 a month on me. Now, I'm going to throw one more, and Dan, you text me if I'm going over too much here, but I want to throw one more advanced concept at you here. If you're overriding me or overriding anybody doing this, is that valuable? Shake your head up and down if you agree. Is that valuable? Okay. I want you to throw something out here. Take a calculator out, if you would, and walk through this exercise with me. It's an important one. Take 5289 and multiply it by 12. That's $63,000 a year. All right. I want to do one more thing. Divide it by 2. So let's say you only do half that. I only do half that much. So that's $31,700 a year. How much money would you have to have set aside in a lump sum that spins off $31,000 or $32,000 a year to you? Divide it by, ready? Divide that number by 0.05, and what do you get? You should get around 630,000, right? So literally, if I do half of this, all right, roughly half of it, that's like having $600,000 in an account somewhere that spins off 30,000, 35,000 a year to you. Is that valuable? It's valuable, right? Well, if it's valuable, how do you protect it? If you had an asset spinning off 30,000 or what, and by the way, this is when you learn how to build a base shop and you're doing 12, you're helping 12 clients a month, or that might be 8 families or 6 families, because you do more than one thing in a family, right? Do you understand? This is literally $1 million asset here. Somebody that has a base shop that is producing 12 clients a month is $1 million asset. How do you protect $1 million asset? In our system, you have found somebody like me. I go out and I don't do a ton, but I do a bunch. So that's literally like you having almost 1.2 million in a bank somewhere, or in an investment, I should say, somewhere. Am I right? So this is really, I'm going to be clear on this. Take 1.2 million and multiply it by 0.05, and what do you get? $60,000, right? 1.2 million times 0.05, a 5% return. You're getting a 5% return. Pretend like you're retired and you got one of those retirement annuities and you get a 5% income. That's 60,000 a year. You divide it by 12, that's 5,000 a month. Are you going to protect that asset? That's a yes, isn't it? How do we protect that asset here? How do we protect that asset for you? Here you are, and here I am. This is worth something to you. This is okay, but you got to work for this. You're working for this. You're not working for this. I'm doing the work for this. You're calling me up and maybe taking me out to lunch once in a while. How do we protect this asset for you? That's our environment. That's our system. That's why we have WFG Insurance Agency. That's why you got an upline leader like Dan. Dan helps you protect that asset. Dan overrides you, you override me. He helps you protect that asset. Our environment protects the asset. We add more products, it protects the asset. We add more tools, it protects the asset. Anything to help me grow, because you want me to grow. You know why? So let me back up. I was told actually 3 things when I came here. I gave you the first 2. What were those? The first one was build your assets under management and get in management. Remember that? That's what I was told. I listened. The third thing I was told is go build 7 to 10 key first generation leaders, and you'll be on your way to being financially independent the rest of your life. And when you look at our system, our whole system is designed to help you do that. And you go build 10, and this isn't even, I mean, Dan's base shop does a lot more than that. I did 50, neither here nor there, but he does more than that. But 10 first generation leaders like this, that's worth another 50 grand a year to you. Or a month, 600 grand a year. That's big, isn't it? Isn't that what you guys want? That's what I want. That's what I went out and did. More than that. Now, I'm not even counting anybody else. I'm just counting what you're doing. Here, just the first. If you look at our system, everything we do is designed to help you build this and to help you build this and protect this for you and your family. So how does that relate to what else is going on, all this noise out there in the industry? Well, it relates like this. I get a call the other day. The guy's name's Barney. He goes, "Hey, you remember me?" I said, "Barney, yeah, I remember you. I talked to you literally like a decade ago." And he goes, "Hey, what are you doing?" He goes like this. He goes, "Are you still doing that thing?" I'm like, "Dude, seriously?" And so he runs an agency. He goes, "Hey, we've got this neat product that's like Medicaid friendly, an annuity." I said, "You're seriously calling to recruit me to a Medicaid annuity product?" All about product. He goes, "Yeah, and you can make this much selling it." I said, "Well, Barney, I already got that. Plus, why would I want to go with you for that? I can go do that on my own." Somebody says, "What's that story got to do with anything?" Pretty simple. When you build a system like this, and that's what you want to do, because that's what's going to give you stability, is you can take any concept and any product that we've got and plug it into this, and it now works for you. Does that make sense? Any product and any concept that we have, and we have more than you can ever do in your career, I promise you. But I get excited about some things. You might have somebody gets excited about something else. You plug it into this system and you get paid on it. And a guy like me, or how about, so this is me right here, just one person that does 12. What about a person that does half of me? Literally, that's worth 600,000 to you. Are you more likely over the next 5 years to go save 600,000 or go teach somebody how to pick up and help 6 clients a month? I was asking that question. Are you more likely to do that? I think you're more likely to go teach somebody how to help 6 families a month or 3 or 4 families a month that does this than you are to go save 600,000 over the next 5 years. You guys with me on that? Is this making sense? If you know something, I wish everybody could be a super personal producer. All right. Wouldn't it be nice that you can just go out and produce and make all the money you can on your own pen? But guess what? I'm not that type of person. I wasn't a great personal producer. Even though I thought I was not. And I came here and learned how to make myself highly referable in our system with help. And I did more business personally, just sharing what we do and taking an education approach to the business, a helping people approach to the business, rather than out there looking for product, looking all the things that people get distracted with. And I paid attention. The founder of the company told me assets under management and people under leadership. So you got to get in management. And then literally the third thing, no, I think it should be 10, but his exact phrasing was build 7 to 10 key first generation leaders and you'll be financially independent the rest of your life. And I listened. But there's one other thing you got to do. Are you ready for this? So I learned early on, if you're going to phrase what we do a little bit, one of the things that he mentioned on why the assets under management and the team is so important is because it pays compound residual income. Compound. So you know how the rule of 72 works, right? You guys with me on the rule of 72? Basic principle here. So the rule of 72 only works because you give it time. There's compounding involved with the rule of 72. All right. But compounding just doesn't work for money. Compounding also works on building a business, right? Because if you're consistent and you give your efforts enough time to compound, there's no telling what you'll build here. This might be 120. You might have another 6 there. Would they do that? Who even knows how big this is going to get? Have you noticed on our website, when you guys log into WFG, right? And you see the earners on there, doesn't it shock you all the earners we're producing? Is that a yay? I mean, how many 100,000? We don't even recognize the 100,000. The 250, the 500, the $1 million earners. It seems to be 1 or 2 every month on the $1 million earners. How does that happen? Because it's compound. Things are compounding. So people's efforts are compounding. And so this is taking effect where people are producing independent people. But there's one other area of compounding that people don't realize. And I don't know who's on this call because I don't really know Dan's team very well. But some of you know Dan for a while, and some of you know him for a short period. Those of you that have known him for a while, don't you feel better about being in business with him today than you did when you first started? Why is that? Because you get the effects of a compounding relationships. So people think a lot of times it's our compound assets under management or our compound team. The real secret here, and Dan, I'll probably end with this because I could go on this forever. The real secret to what we do here is the compounding relationships is what makes it work. We are a team of individuals here, not a group. And when you really understand that, when I was in the general industry, I was just part of a group. They called it a team, but it wasn't. It was just a group. Everybody's out there on their own doing stuff, do this, do that. Hey, I got this slick system here. But when you're part of a team and you understand how this works here, now you get the compounding of the assets, the compounding of the team. But the real secret is the compounding of the relationships. And that's why the company is really hitting stride right now, because all the relationships have compounded. So you're fortunate to be, I mean, on a person who understands that. Most people in our industry don't understand what Dan and people like Dan or myself and a bunch of other leaders, and it's probably some of you do. This is about leadership. And the part about leadership is the compounding of the relationships. That makes sense? Is there any other, Dan, can I cover anything else? I don't know if this is what you expected, but. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm on.
Yeah.
That's actually perfect. Are you open to take a couple of questions?
Absolutely.
First of all, if the field cabinet, if the senior leaders, because I know they've got some questions. They've been texting me.
Sure.
So I want some of those leaders like Jing and all of you, if you have some questions, unmute yourself and you can ask your questions.
You can ask me anything.
Yeah. So Bill, first of all, I love the way the questions that you ask to bring this calculator to life. Those are really, really, really good questions. But I got to ask you something. So from a mental standpoint, when you were being recruited from the industry with 100, how did you make that shift mentally to go from 120 to 65%?
Well, I actually made it to go from 120 plus a 10-point bonus to 50. Had to qualify for 60. It wasn't 65. And the override at the time, the first generation override was only 10. Now my conversation would be going from 120 plus a 10 bonus to an 80. with a 12% override. So it's infinitely better now. But when you understand the compound, first of all, I was already in personal sales.
Got it.
And so when you're in personal sales, first of all, you're unemployed every day. That's the first thing. There's only so many hours in the day, and your skills are only so good. So some people's skills are really good and some aren't. But whatever it is, you reach your level of whatever it is you're going to do personally. So think of this like a McDonald's. The McDonald's around your area, let's say it's spinning off 100 grand a year to that owner, probably a little bit more, but let's say it's 100 grand. Well, how does that McDonald's make more than 100 grand to the owner? Are the traffic patterns going to change? The only way that's going to happen is if they maybe put a Costco next door or something like that, right? But other than that, the traffic pattern, that McDonald's is going to make 100 grand. So when I was a general agent, I had people that were making 50 cents. I had people that were making 50. I lost them both because the ones making 50 cents couldn't survive. And the ones making 50 said the same thing I said to my general agent. Hey, Bill, you know what I've been thinking? I know what you're thinking. You don't need me anymore. I got it. That's what they were thinking. And so in my mind, I'd already doing personal production. And what I wanted was actually building a business. And here's what I found, by the way. When I went from 120 down to 50, I made on a 35% advance, 35, I made way more money. I made $37,000 in 3 months on a 35% advance. I made more money personally producing on a 50-point contract with a 35% advance than I was making on 120 plus a 10% bonus.
Wow.
How's that? Because I had plenty of prospects. I haven't run a lead since 1992.
Yeah.
In fact, one of the things I talk to people about with leads is I say, how would you like not to have to run leads anymore?
Hey, Bill, you know what's awesome about what you just said? Because sometimes what people think is that, let's say they make $100,000 in WFG and they get prospected by a company that's going to give them like an 80% contract. And then they try to figure out, says, well, if you would have did this amount of production in ours, you would have made more. But what they don't realize is that the reason that they have that production is because of our environment and our system. And they're trying to compare that with the traditional industry, which doesn't work.
They can't. It's a weird thing. And I always say, of course, I was never worried about that with myself because I already lived that one system. So I already know it didn't work. I already knew leads didn't work. I didn't like having a lead bill. The only person that makes any money doing leads or in a higher contract are the ones that are selling the leads and wanting override. First of all, if somebody says, come with me because I got 80, my first question is, well, what are you on?
Right.
Well, I want your contract. I don't need you to go get 80. I'll go out and get your contract. Oh, wait, you're on 130? Well, I'll go find 130 then. If I want to go be a personal producer, here's what, if you have unlimited contacts and unlimited credibility, and you never need to call somebody to do something, and you love personal sales, and you're never going to recruit somebody, well, then maybe we're not for you. All right. Exactly. But if you have all those attributes, then you can really make our system sing, because then you can teach other people to do that. But you know something? Most people don't have unlimited leads. Am I right? They need prospecting. What's our best prospecting system? Is I go bring you on and teach you how to build a business. I teach you how to be highly referable. Hey, if I was going to ask you guys, chime in and don't be shy about this. I do this with the industry all the time. Are you ready? Tell me what it is you do. Who wants to give me an answer to that question? I won't embarrass you. Come on now, somebody's on here who wants to chime in.
There you go. You got Juanita Boone just says, Juanita Boone said, I educate people on how money works.
All right, can you unmute her? Because I want to hear her say it.
Okay, Juanita Boone, go ahead and unmute yourself.
I teach people how money works.
Okay, I'm at a party, Juanita. You and I are at
Okay.
a party. I said, what is it you do?
For me, I teach people how money works because it's not
Okay.
taught in schools.
Oh, Anita, have you been on my webinars? Anita,
Yes,
you have been?
yes, sir. I have. Yes, I have.
Okay, what's the third line?
Well, I have,
Hello?
I don't know the third line. I teach people how money works.
Hello?
It's
How
not
about
taught
this?
in school. Everybody wants to know more about money and be smart about money.
Okay, so maybe try this.
Okay.
I'll say it one of two ways. I'll say,
right.
Double H, I'm on a training.
I'm helping build a company,
Okay.
or I work with a company that teaches people how money works. As you know, it's not taught in schools. Most people are financially illiterate. They have no idea how money really works. And then you got to say all 3 or 4 of those sentences.
Okay.
Because if you just say the first 1 or 2 as a statement, it doesn't resonate.
Okay.
Then you can follow it up with, by the way, have you ever heard of the rule of 72? Or have you ever read this? Whatever materials you have,
Okay.
right? Juanita, that was good.
Thank you.
Now, here's the reason I mentioned that, is if you ask an insurance person or a financial planner, you ask them what they do. One is, I had one guy say, I'm in the insurance business. The big one is, I'm a financial advisor. Another one is, I show people how to save money on this. No, my question is, as I'm recruiting them, that doesn't work, does it? And it doesn't. Or tell me that works, and it doesn't work. It doesn't resonate with people. Does that make sense? First of all, insurance agent doesn't resonate with anybody, but I'm a financial. Why doesn't financial advisor work? Does that sound like a good term? I'm a financial advisor. Because it connotates 2 things. The first thing it connotates is, I don't have any money, so I don't need one, or I've already got one. But let's say it does resonate for a client. Now you're trying to bring somebody in the business, and know what they say? Oh, I got to be a financial advisor? No. When you come into a business, know what you got to do? You got to teach people how money works, and we're going to show you how to do that. Make sense?
Does anybody else have any questions?
Did I answer the question about the contract?
Yes.
The running out of the contract is, I'm on 120, I bring Dan on. What do I put Dan on? Something less. Dan brings in Juanita. What's she go on? Something less. Juanita wants to bring somebody in. What's she go on? Something less. One company had a real bright idea. They said, okay, Bill, you come in, you start at this level, and then as you and your team's production rises, your contract goes up, and they have the same option, but generally they'll never get to you. But what if they do? It's only the one system I saw, somebody only has to do like 30 clients a month and their whole team. And they're end up on my contract now, I'm flanked and I earn nothing. And it's only one product. I'm like, I'm not doing that. It doesn't make, it's why they break down. And I can really go into a lot of detail on that, probably not for this webinar. I actually do 2 hours on this sometimes to really dive in with people, because I think the industry out there is hurting. It is hurting, which is why they always push contract or push product or come with me because of this neat product. Yeah, okay, that's really a reason. I got it.
So,
Bill, I have a question.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on, those people in the industry and they come and they want the higher contract right away at the beginning?
Okay.
Because
All right. So there's 2 schools of thought on that. I could start them at the bottom, but if somebody's been here or not been, all right. So let's take our training associate, training associate, senior associate. Those levels are designed to get people through licensing initially and through learning how to manage their time, doing a few sales, learning that rejection's not personal, things like that. I do not ever give the SMD contract away And I go into the reasons why we don't ever do that. One is it's not the contract, it's what you become by earning the contract. It means you understand our system. And if I gave the contract away, then I'm doing the same thing the rest of the industry does. I'm prospecting with contract, and that doesn't make any sense because that doesn't work. So that's why on an industry person, you got to spend a fair amount of time on showing how to get our contract to work for them, which that calculator is phenomenal for. And look, if they're so good, it's 75,000 points, 10 licensed people. And Dan, you can give somebody a bump early on. If somebody's making 50 grand or somebody's coming, from something similar, or like Dan, where we came from, maybe, I don't know if can you like bump them up a little bit because you're paying for experience? I get that. I started on the equivalent here. I started on an MD contract here because I already knew the industry. And then I had to qualify for the we called it something different back then, but I had to qualify for the SMD contract. But let's say I was with some company like Bankers Life or Aflac. Those people don't know anything, for the most part. They don't really know anything. So, you can't just give away the contract. And if contract is an issue, you got to spend more time on the mission of what we're doing and the system of our contract, explaining when they get to the S&D contract, they now have the right to those GA. I'm using language we're both familiar with on the industry, because if somebody from the industry, they know what a general agent contract is. So I said, look, you want GA to GA override, you got to qualify for that and go into that. But I also frame it with a story. I said, look, we're McDonald's. You're coming from Wendy's. I get you know how to flip burgers, but you don't know how we flip the burgers. You went to Wendy's University for burger flipping. We have McDonald's University. You have to go through McDonald's University. There's no way around it. And then I'll make a joke. And I said, if I get a lot of resistance from somebody on McDonald's University, I'm going to send them twice. So I had a guy come in that I'll never forget this. He pops his head in my door, and his name was Gary. And he goes, hey, you remember me? I said, yeah, Gary, come on in. And I had interviewed him, and he ended up going with a company that ended up going out of business. And he goes, yeah, so how you doing? He goes, yeah, he goes, I got terminated. My contract got terminated. They weren't out of business then, but my contract got terminated. And I said, oh, well, come on in. Love to have you. And I thought you should have joined us then. He goes, what contract am I going to start on? Right. And he got terminated for lack of production. And I said, I think it was 45. I said, I'll start you at 45. He goes, I'm on 85 now. I said, Gary, you're 85, got you less than $10,000 in income. Are you concerned with your contract or how much money you're going to make? Are you guys concerned? That's really the question. You concerned with contract or what kind of business you're going to build and how much money you're going to make off that business? We build businesses here. Contract is for people building practices. A practice is not a business. You guys with me on that? A practice, if I'm an accountant and I'm doing personal tax returns or accounting, that's a practice. If I have accountants, I have a business. So we have the best business building contract ever. And that's what you want. You want to have a business. Or else you're going to be out there hawking insurance and trying to look for sales the rest of your life. And I'll say that to a guy.
Thank you so much. That's great.
Yeah, no, I'll answer any others. I love doing this. And I hope this helped a little bit.
Anybody else? So Bill, let me ask you this, because you've been doing this for 22 years and you've been actually been a really great student at understanding the industry. Mm-hmm. So when someone calls you and they're attempting to prospect you.
Yeah.
Because you have that mindset that, I was saying the other day, is that you're either hunting or you're doing the hunting.
Oh, I'm hunting. So my favorite line is, so a guy calls me up and prospects me with contract. I'm like, sounds interesting. That's my thing. It sounds interesting. So literally he came in, we met at a Bob Evans. And I'll never forget the first time I ever did this. He shows me what he's doing. He goes, what do you think? I said, dude, if you like that, you're going to love what I do. If you like that, you're going to love what I do. And that's my thought. I said, you like that, you're going to love what I do.
Wow.
And by the way, when you start diving in with people, prospecting based on contract is such the lowest form or leads of prospecting you can ever do. And it illustrates a problem. And if you ask the average person out there, if they truly said, and I did this one time, I recorded phone calls, general agent phone calls. I remember a guy goes, oh man, we're blowing and going. I started asking him, I said, man, how those leads doing and everything? He goes, they suck. At first he said it was great. And then after I talked to him for a few minutes, the real feelings came out. Do you understand that the general industry, that most people would quit the industry if their spouses weren't working? And they had if they could make the same amount of money doing something else, they quit. I would never do that.
Right.
Even when I love what I do here. I just had to get the skills to do it. And that's where some of you are probably at. You got to get the skills to do it. And it really comes from a mindset. And I'll give you 2 more tips. I'm gonna give you some personal tips. I'm gonna give you some team tips. I think there's 2 things that one of the main issues that people have in our business has nothing to do with the product, anything like that. It has to do with their personal thought process. And here's what I mean by that. Jane Lynn, I'm going to use you again.
Yes.
Hey, tell me what your goals are.
I want to make $1 million
Okay. Why?
because I have a charity that I want to support, and I pledge to provide support a lot of money in that charity.
Okay. So that's your goal.
By the
Not the
way,
million.
hey, Bill, by the way, Jing averages, she made 76,000 last month. We just sat down.
So I guess I'm asking the wrong person. No, actually, it still fits, gentlemen. That's awesome. But this is serious. Your goals, everybody, this is really important. It's not your business goals. It's what you personally want to be, do, become. That's what drives you in our business. Is what you want to personally do. The business serves your life, not your life, the business, okay? So you got to get serious about your personal life goals. And then you craft a business around that. And when you have some big things you want to do personally, for your family, for a charity, for whatever you do, right? Then you craft the business around it. That's when you really make it go. But how do you do that? So Jane Lynn, you obviously don't have this problem, but most people's challenge in our business is more a mindset of what they're trying to do, why they're here. I had somebody ask, what's your goal? Well, I want to speak on stage. I know I can't do anything with that. So I had to really dive down with her and say, what do you want to do personally? What are you doing? You know, the reason I'm in the business, I love what we do. I love everything about what we do for people. But I love how I can build hit my personal aspirations around it, and the family, the things I've been able to do with my family around that. And what's everybody's basic goal, which would be, you can help your charity when you're what? When you're financially independent. So that ought to be a big part of it, becoming financially independent, right? But how do you clarify that, and how do you craft a plan? And there's 2 things that I know works. And I wish I could get every person on my team doing it, but I guess they're as hard-headed as I used to be. All right. Number 1, you need to read the 12-week year. That's the 90-day madman cycle on steroids. When I first read it a few years ago, I called up Susan Davies and I said, has this guy ever been with us? Because I knew he understood what we were doing on goal setting, time blocking, all these concepts. So you need to read the 12-week year, and you're going to get some false starts. Every 12 or 13 weeks is a new 12-week year, right? The idea is you can do more in 12 weeks than you do in a year. You don't need to do yearly planning. All right. And the second thing is, it's nice having that plan, but I would invest, if I were you, in something called a best self journal. Go to bestself.co. Bestself.co. And I was using, I love the 12, I could take the 12-week year and I could take a book called Double Your Contacts, which is not in print anymore. And I could take What Do You Say When You Talk to Yourself by Shad Helmstetter. I don't know if you ever read that book. What do you say when you talk to yourself? And I can go conquer the world anywhere with those three things. One is I keep the head trash out. You learn contacting, and then you learn your personal disciplines. Okay, but this book keeps you on track. It has what you're grateful for, your schedule, your goals, and it is the 12-week year in practice. All right, and I promise you, you go through this process, you read the 12-week year, and you invest in a best self journal. I order 4 of these at a time for the year because it's 4 12-week periods or 13-week periods in a year. And that will, to my original question was, it clarifies what your 5-year aspirations are, what your goals are, and then it has you craft a business around that and what your goals. So I have 3 goals all the time. A personal fitness goal, clearly. Just kidding. Nobody's laughing. Personal fitness goal, a financial fitness goal, and I got my business goal. I used to have a lot more when I first started. I can't keep track of those 3. And you have a checklist every day. You just mark off your activities and it keeps you on track. But the nice thing is, you know, like Jane Lynn, what you just said about what your charity is, that's in the forefront. I mean, that's part of it. You see that all the time. So it enables you to do that. And I would recommend that. And that goes way beyond whatever we do building a business here. All right. That's my favorite stuff to talk about, actually.
Bill, thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
You did an amazing job. And we got to do more trainings like this together, man. I really enjoy.
I appreciate you.
I really enjoy the questions that you ask. You ask really good questions. And sometimes we give so much data so fast, and we assume that people are processing it like we're processing it. One of the things that I love that you do is that when you say something, you allow someone to think about what you just said and allow it to simmer with the lines that you give. That's like really good. So I appreciate you. We'll definitely do some trainings together.
Yeah, I know I left a bunch out, but we'll do more of that. All right.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate
Hey, good luck, everybody.
it. All right. Bye-bye.
All right. See ya.